Hi guys! Hopefully you had a great day at school and you're ready to get down and do some math. You're in a quiet place. You have your textbook open to page 155 or 59, sorry, 159. You have your composition book because we're going to be taking some notes and doing some problems, and you've got a pencil. So if you don't have those, please pause the video and go get them. All right, we worked on yesterday recalling knowledge that we're going to need to use for rates and unit rates. And right up here in the corner, it has a vocabulary box. We always want to start our new units with checking out our vocabulary. And the cool thing about it is the math book actually gives you those answers. So in the same color yellow in a little box, it actually puts it around the vocabulary word that you have to define. So if you guys wouldn't mind writing down, just today we're going to cover rate and unit rate. We're going to cover the speed one tomorrow, but today we'll cover rate and unit rate. So please write down in your notes rate and unit rate. And for the first thing, our objective for this lesson, the thing we want to solve, is solving unit rate problems, including unit pricing and constant speed. And we're actually, like I just said, we're going to do the constant speed tomorrow. We're just going to do unit pricing today. So the first thing we want to do is write down the meaning of rates. The meaning of rates. So you can use, this is the definition you want to write for rates, use a ratio to compare two quantities or two amounts that have the same units. So here's an example of that. Centimeters is the units it's using. Those are the same. And it's comparing two different amounts, or quantities is another word for that. So it's comparing 80 and 90 of the same units of centimeters. So it says our bar A right here is 80 centimeters long. Our bar B is 92 centimeters long, but A and B are two lengths with the same units. So that's what a rate is. It's when you're comparing the same units. Now the difference down here is unit rate. I'll move my book up a little bit. Unit rate is our next vocabulary word that you want to write down the definition for. It doesn't compare two that have the same units. It compares two quantities or amounts to one unit. So one of those amounts or quantities only has one, and that would reduce it or simplify it down to one unit of different quantities. So they're different amounts, and it compares to one unit. So it won't be both the same like our centimeters up here. It may be just like this one. It says money and time. They're two different quantities, but one of them, the way we know it's a unit rate, not just a rate, is one of them is going to be 1. So for here, it says, for example, if Sarah earns $23 in 1 hour, you can use the rates $23 per hour. And if you look right down here, this little line right here, in math, it's called a backslash on your computer keyboard. And in math, it means per. So it just means for every 23 hours, there is 1 hour, or per hour. So this one would be a unit rate, not just a rate, because one of these that we're comparing is reduced to 1. So yesterday we used our warthogs on our video. It said 60 warthogs per 2 miles of stretch of road, and it said actually took that down. Instead of just making it a rate, it said I'm going to take it down to a unit rate by saying, okay, neither of them is 1. So they said, let's go ahead and take our 2 miles and we will divide it by our 60 warthogs. 2 divided by 2 is 1, so it would be 1 hour, and whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. So that would be 2 divided by 60 is 30. So then we'd only have 30 warthogs per 1 mile, and that would make it a unit rate because we're only talking about 1 mile, just like we're talking about 1 hour. So hopefully that makes sense to you. So we're going to turn the page. You should have the definition for rate and unit rate written down there. And we're going to go over here to page 160 to our guided practice. So turn your page to your guided practice, and it says, I just want you to write yes or no to state whether each statement is expressed as a unit rate. Is one of them reduced to 1 unit? So, or it will not be a unit rate if you have to do some math like we did with the warthogs to figure out what 1 unit is. So it just says, is one of them already 1, or do you have to do some math to do that? If it's already 1, it's a unit rate because it's down to 1 unit. But if it's not, you would need to write, no, it is not reduced down to that yet. I would have to do that math in my head. So let's just do the first one. A monkey plucked 4 coconuts per minute. And it goes without saying that that's a 1 minute. So that would be a unit rate because it's down to 1 minute. 4 coconuts for every 1 minute. So if you guys could pause the video and do 2, 3, and 4 on your own, just write yes or no if it's already reduced to a unit rate, which says one of them is 1 unit. All right, go ahead and pause that and do that, and we'll be back in a minute. Okay, we're back, and we're going to do this one together as well. Express and compute unit rates in terms of time and other quantities. So what we're going to do is say Nick fills 24 bottles in 8 minutes. We don't know of what, but he fills 24 bottles, maybe with water, in 8 minutes. So we are going to have to do some math to make that a unit rate and make one of these down to 1. At what rate are the bottles being filled with water? So we take our 8 minutes, we drew boxes for each minute, and we took our 24 bottles, and if we divide 24 by 8, it will tell us how much did he do in 1 minute, how much one of these units is. So 8 over here, they said 8 minutes. We need to divide by 24 bottles, and that will give us how many he did in 1 minute. So 8 divided by 24 is 3. So just like it shows us right here, it says he had 24 bottles that he filled in 8 minutes. And if we say how many do we want in 1 minute, we have the blank space up here that we can say, okay, well, if 8 we're dividing by 1, 24 we also divide by 8, and it equals 3 bottles. So the bottles are being filled with water at a rate of 3 bottles per minute. Now it's in a unit rate form because this is for 1 minute. So hopefully that makes sense to you. If you guys could go ahead and do number 5 down here on your guided practice at the bottom of page 160. On your own, it goes ahead and draws the units for you and walks you through it. If you could come up with that answer, and then we'll go over it tomorrow in class. So go ahead and pause the video and do that. Okay, we're back and we're moving to page 161. 161. And the difference between this problem and the ones that were just on the page you finished doing are this one has some decimals. So let's walk through how we would do that. So it says find a unit rate again. A school buys 275 acres of land for a new athletic field. What is the cost of the acres if the school pays $275,000 for the land? So just like we did with our bottles filling per minute, we need to say the cost per acre, which was, we're finding the cost per acre, so we have to take the total cost here and divide it by our number of acres. Here's the difference though, is we're taking this big number for the cost of 275,000 and we're dividing it by 2 and a decimal and 75, 2.75 acres. So right over here it says multiply both the numerator and the denominator of the fractions by the same number to make the divisor a whole number. So you're trying to figure out what that number is by looking how many zeros you would need to divide it by, 1 and how many zeros to move your decimal point 2 places to the right. So I could do all that math right here for you, dividing it by a 1 and 2 zeros, which would be 100, but essentially I'm just going to do it real quick. If I move my decimal place 1, 2 to the right to make that a whole number, it would, if I did all that multiplication, it would add 2 zeros onto my top number. And so here we had 1, 2, 3 zeros on the end of that number. Now, because we moved our decimal place 2 places to the right, so that this is a whole number now, it added, instead of 1, 2, 3 zeros like up here, it has 1, 2 more zeros. So it would just change that number if we did the multiplication. And you can either use your calculator or your head doing long division, but if you go 275 divided by that number, it will equal 100,000. And the cost, the unit cost then of the pieces of land would be for 1 acre, so we're now at the unit cost because one of them is 1 unit, is $100,000 per acre. So if you could go ahead and do practice number 6, pause the video, do number 6 on your own, it helps you walk through that, and also number 7 on your own. That would be great. Go ahead and pause the video and do that. Okay, hopefully tomorrow we are going to work on page 162, which is talking a little bit more about prices. And if you guys would like to go ahead and look over that, you're welcome to. But we're going to go ahead and go over that tomorrow, and we'll talk more about when we have 1 unit of pounds and an amount of money. So if you guys could just make sure that you go back, and the numbers that you were supposed to do on your own were number 2, 3, and 4 on the top of page 160. Also, number 5 on the bottom of page 160 you were supposed to have done. And also, let me see if I can get my book up here. You were supposed to do number 6 and 7 of the ones on page 161. Then, in addition to that, have your 2 vocabulary words, rate and unit rate, that were defined for you here and here at the bottom of page 59. Those should also be written on your notes. So hopefully you can get that done quickly so you can move on to lots more fun stuff to do this afternoon. Have a great day, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.